Laser sights can deter threats and aid in quick target identification, enhancing your ability to protect your family, home, and country. Crimson Trace, making laser sights standard equipment. Learn more at crimsontrace.com.
Hey y'all, it's Tom Gresham's Gun Talk. Oh, look out, we're smoking.
And we're back. Tom Gresham here, 866-TALK-GUN, or just dial Tom Talk Gun. That'll get you in here. It's Gun Talk. We're talking about, well, guns and ammo and scopes and shooting sports and hunting and pretty much anything else. Sure, of course. Absolutely. We'll talk about self-defense. But, one of the key factors in everything we do, what we talk about and how we handle firearms, is safety. If we can't do it safely, we're not going to do it. Period. That's just the deal. That's what we start with. That's what we end with. One of the groups that doesn't get, I don't think they get the credit due when it comes to gun safety and helping with security of stores, preventing bad guys from using strawman sales to buy guns, and so much more, is the National Shooting Sports Foundation. We are very fortunate now to be joined by the president of the National Shooting Sports Foundation, Joe Bartozzi. Hello, Joe.
Hey, Tom, how are you? Thanks for having me.
I am great. I was excited to see this latest release talking about what I think is one of the hallmark programs that NSSF has been involved with over the decades now, and we're decades into it, Project ChildSafe. Why is it important for us to be looking at ChildSafe this time of year?
Well, this actually in June is National Safety Month. The National Safety Council has dedicated the month of June to their national safety program, and every week they have a different topic: home safety, workplace safety, like that. So we thought it'd be a great idea to work with them and to emphasize Project ChildSafe during National Safety Month. Great opportunity for people to learn about gun safety, safe handling, and naturally safe storage of firearms.
Now, Project ChildSafe, for those who don't know, it's an amazing program. It has been responsible for giving away tens of millions of gun safety kits, which is tens of millions of gun locks, which were given away for free, where people can come in. ChildSafe works with local police departments to do these programs. And as I say, this has been going on for a long time. But, Joe, one of the things I see in this release, and I think it's great to remind people, is that kids are out of school. They're going to be spending more time in homes. They're going to be spending more time in cars. And it's a great time for us to all take a look at, basically do a safety review, if you will, on how we store our guns, where we keep our guns. Are they in the cars? Are they in the homes? Are they secure? Are they unloaded? That type of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's part of our Safe Summer initiative. Again, as you said, with kids being out of school, we just think it's a great opportunity to remind parents and guardians to, if you have firearms, when they're not being used, just make sure they're securely stored and out of the reach of children, so that we can avoid accidents and other unpleasant situations.
Sometimes people will say, yeah, but, I need to have my gun available to me in self-defense. I go, yeah, I understand that. But look, when I had small kids, when my kids are small, you have to make choices. You do things that are a little inconvenient. You put the little safety locks on cabinet doors so they can't get into poisons. You put the little covers on the electrical outlets, and that's kind of a pain, but you do that so the little kids can't get that. And you have to make some adjustments with where you store your guns. And in my case, I just made sure they were always unloaded. That was just my choice. You can go with a locked box. But, it just doesn't take a long time to be able to grab a magazine and put it into a pistol and rack the slide if you need it. But particularly a small kid is not going to be able to do that. Now, as they get just a little bit older, and they can always do more than you think they can, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, as they get older, you have to make some adjustments, and you kind of tailor your security program, and that's where some sort of locking system, whether it's one of these quick access lock boxes or something, works. Do you know how long has ChildSafe been going on now?
Yeah, this is our 20th year. Started in 1999, and as you said, we've now topped over 38 million safety kits given away, which includes gun locks. And as important as a lock is, the information about safe storage options and safe handling is certainly as important as the lock, maybe more important in some ways. And I think to your point about as you change, as your needs change with children and then grandchildren, perhaps, your safe storage options are also going to change and evolve. So depending on the age of your children, or if the children are out of the home, there are certainly ways to modify your approach to safe storage. And there's no one size fits all, to be sure. But in this day and age, as opposed to when my kids were small, you've got biometric things and small lock boxes that are electronic and very, very quick access. So there's really a much wider range of options today than there were even 20 or 30 years ago. So it is important just to consider what your needs are, and have to carefully consider how best to secure the firearms, but not in use.
We probably ought to point out, if people don't know what the National Shooting Sports Foundation is, people think of the NRA as the gun lobby. And I always tell people, look, the NRA represents gun owners, but it's actually the National Shooting Sports Foundation that represents the firearms industry, because you're made up of gun makers, gun retailers, distributors, basically the people who are companies that work in the industry, right?
Yeah, it's a trade association for the industry, which includes manufacturers of firearms and ammunition, distributors, dealers, outdoor media, and so forth. So, yeah, we're not, even though the NRA represents me as an individual member, we don't have individual members. We've got corporations and companies, and large and small, as members of our organization.
Yeah, but, ChildSafe is good for everyone. You said something in the middle of that I want to go back to, which is interesting. You talk about changing situations. When when your kids get older and they've moved out, and there's just the two of you, say, in the house, that's a different situation. That may be your situation for a few years, and you may treat your guns in a certain way where you think, I don't really have to lock them up. It's just me and my wife here. But then all of a sudden, grandchildren come into the picture, and now we're back to, and you have to say, oh, wait a minute, I need to take a fresh look at this. Yep,
that's right. It's something that, again, as your needs evolve and change, you have to take a look at this. Part of the Project ChildSafe message is not just about locking and storing, which is vitally important. It's also about education. So the ability to train children, young people, and eventually grandchildren in how to safely handle firearms is also part of the program. So there's it's a kind of constantly evolving and changing dynamic. But again, education is crucial, and then understanding what your needs are and securely storing is really the key to preventing accidents and suicides, for example, and things like that. So,
yep, it's great that it is actually the firearms industry itself that created this program that has given out 38 million gun locks free to people. And I would also add to everybody that, look, a ton of guns get stolen from cars. Don't leave your guns in your cars. That's not a safe place to leave a gun, especially not overnight. So do that.
Right.
Joe, the website, just looked it up, projectchildsafe.org.
Yes. That website has got a ton of resources on there. It's got great information. If you wanted to obtain a firearm safety kit, you contact the childsafe.org website. It'll show you exactly where the participating law enforcement agency in your area would be, and you can get that. You can also contact us back at the office. But the childsafe.org website is really loaded with great information. We have some educational videos. In fact, we have just relaunched 2 McGruff safety videos, and both of those just won awards. They won the Telly Awards, we just were announced a couple of weeks ago, so we're very proud of that. And again, it's about keeping children safe around firearms, about educating parents and teachers about safe firearms. So again, it's something that we work hard on, we're very proud of, and we really believe it's having an impact on safety and saving lives.
And if you're a city or an organization or a police department that wants to bring the ChildSafe program to your town, contact Project ChildSafe, contact the NSSF, and work with them, because there are ways to make that happen as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we've got over 15,000 law enforcement partners all over the country, and we work through them almost exclusively, not entirely exclusively, but they're the ones that help to coordinate and distribute the locks and the kits to consumers.
Yeah, the folks in the studio here also reminded me, look, you got childhood friends coming over, you got sleepovers, you got everything else. You got to get control of your guns. You have to make sure they're secure. Joe, thank you so much. Joe Bartozzi is the president of the National Shooting Sports Foundation. Project ChildSafe, I think, is one of the best programs that the organization has.
Thanks, Tom, so much for having us, and really appreciate getting the word out to people. Thanks.
You bet. Take care. Yeah, NSSF.org for those that want more information about what NSSF does. Of course, it also is the group that puts on the SHOT Show every year. All right, open lines now. Time for you. Gun safety stories, messages. Also talking about your dad. I mean, you know what? This is your time. You can share that story. It's okay. We'll just listen. That's what we're all about. And I'll have a story or two to share as well. 866-TALK-GUN.
Are you looking for a place to shoot? The National Shooting Sports Foundation has a great website called wheretoshoot.org. It's the largest database of shooting ranges on the internet. It's also a great resource for shooters where you can find video tips, printable targets, and a lot more. Find it online at wheretoshoot.org. And while you're there, download their free iPhone app. That's wheretoshoot.org.
Perhaps more than any other landscape, wetlands embody the life-giving abundance that nature has to offer. And perhaps more than any other organization, Ducks Unlimited is working to ensure that our continent's wetlands not only survive, but thrive for generations well beyond this one. The time is now to band together. The time is now to rescue our wetlands.
Attacks happen every day. How will you react? See real people put into real-life criminal attack situations on First Person Defender. Discover what works and what doesn't. Kidnapping, ATM robbery, home invasion, and other attacks. Learn how to save your life and the lives of your family. Get the entire first season on DVD at shopguntalk.com. Get prepared. shopguntalk.com.
When someone leaves you their gun collection, you may want a few, but what do you do with the rest? How do you sell them? Who do you call? Well, I call Johnny Dury at Dury's Guns. Whether you're selling one gun or 500, they'll tell you what it's worth and write you a check. Simple, quick, easy, fair. I trust Dury's Guns. Give them a call. Dury'sGuns.com. Well, let's see. In the not good news category, we get the news that one of the major firearms distributors has filed for bankruptcy, Ellett Brothers. Distributors are the middlemen. Most gun makers don't sell directly to gun stores. Some do. Those are called dealer direct. Distributors are part of what is known as the two-step process. So the gun makers sell to the distributor, and then gun stores can order from the distributor. Why would they do that? Well, in the case of the manufacturer, they don't have to warehouse all those guns. They sell them to the distributors, and they warehouse them. Also, the manufacturer doesn't have to deal with 14,000 gun stores. They deal with a dozen or 2 dozen distributors, and that's all they sell to. So they have 2 dozen customers. And the distributors are these very big companies, and they deal with thousands and thousands and thousands of individual gun stores. And they warehouse millions of dollars of guns, dollars in guns, ammo, scopes, all the rest of it. Well, Ellett Brothers is one of the biggest of those. It was purchased a few years ago. There are lawsuits involved, as you might imagine, because there are probably hundreds of millions of dollars involved. I don't think this is a result of a downturn in sales, although there has been a downturn in gun sales with the election of Donald Trump. We all know that. The Trump slump, if you will. It sounds as though, if one is to believe what you're seeing in these lawsuits, that there was somewhere between bad management and horrible management. But these are going to be people who are losing their jobs. This is really bad. It's bad to see any business go out of business. It's bad, and trust me, if you have never lost your job, you don't have an appreciation for it. I have. I have lost my job twice. I mean, boom, you're gone. Job's not there anymore. It is devastating for the family. And in this case, it's devastating for all these families. So, really sad to hear that. That's just not a good thing at all. Let's see. Line 1. Eric's with us out of Jackson, Mississippi. Eric, welcome to Gun Talk. What's on your mind, sir?
Hi, Mr. Gresham. I just had a thought on these mass murderers. My thinking is the problem is multifactorial, and then there's more than one thing that I think leads to it, such as, you got to take a look, because in the 80s and 90s, we saw an uptake in it, and it's still increasing slightly. So what has changed? You got to look and see what has changed since then. There's been a few things that's changed, but one thing that has not changed is the fire alarm, which has been around for over 100 years. So, yeah, I think you got to look at what's changed. And, the internet came along in the 80s. That's whenever in the 80s, 90s, media started picking up a lot more. I think it's a lot to do with different factors, such as the media. And then, of course, you always want to have copycats, too, and to which the media don't really help in that regard.
Let me ask you a question. Here's one of the things I keep hearing people talk about, and I don't know if you've given any thought to this.
Yeah.
But I think there probably is something to it. Is the huge increase in prescriptions to mind-altering drugs. Everything from Ritalin on, but people who have been prescribed psychotropic drugs to help with ADHD, whatever it happens to be, all these different things. What do you think? Anything to that?
Well, actually, Mr. Gresham, I'm actually got one more year left. I'm still in school right now, and one more year left, and I'll be done. I'll be a pharmacist. So I do have a lot to say about that. But my opinion on that is, I know my opinion. To which I'm a little bit. To which I've always went by the thing: if someone doesn't really need a medication, don't give it to them. If they don't absolutely need it, don't give it to them, because I think there is a lot of over-medication going on now. So, but I think that's another thing. That's another factor, too, I think of, too, is you have all these antidepressants, all these Ritalin and all these stimulant drugs, and they do have an effect. And the thing is, I think we're starting to see some effect on it, because, like I say, we don't know what goes on in the brain. We don't have that fully mapped out yet. There's still a lot of mental disorders that we don't fully understand, what causes it, what's best to treat it. And I think with these drugs, I think we've seen a uptick in overprescribing, and I think we're starting to see some of the effect it's having on some people's minds. So, I think that plays a part in it, too. Yeah, definitely. But it's not, I say, that's not really
I think you're right. And your basic point is well taken, which is, the availability of guns has not changed. We've had some increase in these mass shootings, not nearly as much as you would think, because the media certainly overplays it. But at the same time, it's a factor, and I think that the mental health issue is weirdly ignored by the media and those who want to make something out of this, but then again, their agenda goes a different direction. Eric, thank you so much for your call. I appreciate that, and good luck with your studies there. I want to relay, this is going to tie into this. I heard a story recently, not secondhand, told me by the individual, the man to whom this happened. We're talking about drugs here. The fellow was... I'm trying not to give away too much information here because I don't want him identified. But he's a very good shooter, okay? And you're familiar with the drug Ambien, which is a sleep help, basically helps you go to sleep. And, people take it when they're going to take a trip or something like that on an airline, sleep as they go over. But there are stories out there about bad effects, sleepwalking and such. This fellow took an Ambien. He was having trouble sleeping. Took an Ambien. He was home, wasn't traveling. When he wakes up, all he can see is green. Just everything is just green when he wakes up. Doesn't know where he is. All he knows is he can see nothing but green. And then he realizes he's wearing night vision goggles. He doesn't know why. And then he realizes he's laying in the middle of a field on his back, wearing night vision goggles. And then he realizes he's wearing night vision goggles, laying on his back in the middle of a field, and he's wearing body armor and a vest loaded up with magazines. And across his chest is a .308 semi-automatic rifle with a scope. And he's waking up in the middle of the field at night, wearing nods, with his rifle, with his ballistic vest, with his extra mags. His first thought is, did I kill everybody? And he pops the magazine out and looks in the magazine, and it's full. And he realizes he didn't shoot anybody. But he has no idea what happened. He has no idea how that happened. He has no idea how he went and got all of his gear, and how he got it on, and how he got to where he was, and the rest of it. If that doesn't scare the living hell out of you, I don't know what will, in terms of taking something like that. Just kind of food for thought. So do not think for a minute that some of these shootings aren't related to the psychotropic drugs and things that people are taking. The availability of guns has not changed, but the availability of mind-altering drugs certainly has. 866-TALK-GUN is how you get in here. I'm Tom Gresham. This is Gun Talk.
A girl can't go wrong with something in basic black, like an AR-15.
Some things never go out of style, like Tom Gresham's Gun Talk.
All right, welcome back. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Yeah, as you can well imagine, growing up the son of a gun writer, hunting writer, fishing writer, outdoor writer, we had guns in the house all the time. When I grew up, it was pretty unimaginable because all the guns that came out, all the new guns that came out were all sent to my father. We had almost literally everything that was made. And a lot of it sitting there with hang tags on it. And I got my choice of everything. Well, which worked out pretty well because then I now have at least a passing acquaintance with a lot of different kinds of guns. Some that worked out very well and some that were pretty weird and didn't last very long at all. But it was sure a fun way to grow up. And yeah, my dad would literally take me out of school. Of course, back then we could pull that off. When we had a new flight of ducks come in, he'd call the school and have the principal get my books and be ready and pick me up. We'd go out and go do some hunting. It was not a bad way to go, I guarantee you. So anyway, just a big thank you to all the dads out there. If you have a father story, hunting, shooting, gun collecting, anything else, by all means, give us a holler right now, 866-TALK-GUN. No surprise at all that an awful lot of the strange, different, and quite frankly repressive gun control laws that are tried out get started in California. A new one, kicks in just a couple of weeks here. Joining us to talk about that right now is Matthew Cuberio. He is an attorney in California, and we're talking about this, Matthew, this new law that goes into effect July 1. What's it going to force people to do?
Well, first off, thank you for having me here. I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you guys. Just to give people sort of a quick breakdown, essentially this law that was enacted in 2016 as part of both a voter initiative called Prop 63 and also a Senate bill, Senate Bill 1235, together have sort of combined to create this new requirement that starting July 1st of this year, anyone generally in the state of California that wants to purchase ammunition, which already has to be purchased now at either a licensed gun dealer or what's called a licensed ammunition vendor, will also now be subject to a background check requirement depending on the individual's particular set of circumstances. So that's sort of the basics in a nutshell of what's going to be happening here July 1st. And that background check system is sort of piggybacked onto the same system that the California Department of Justice uses for firearm transfers. And so for those of you that have ever submitted a DROS or familiar with that term, it's called Dealer Record of Sale. That's going to essentially be a process similar now in California to actually being able to lawfully purchase ammunition in the state.
Now, you mentioned they'll have to do the background check depending on that person's circumstances. What would that be? Are there some people who will not have to do a background check to buy ammo?
Yeah, so basically for the individual gun owner, the typical gun owner that's not either law enforcement or generally involved in a firearm business, whether it be like a licensed FFL or manufacturer or something like that, they're going to have to undergo a certain type of background check. Now, what that is, like I said, sort of depends on the individual set of circumstances. And really what they've done here is they've set up three basic ways in which an individual can obtain the necessary, DOJ calls it authorization, electronic approval, in order to process the transaction. The first way is if you've ever bought a gun in California from a licensed dealer, at least after January 1st, 2014, you have what's called an automated firearm system record. That record, the best way to just sort of describe it, it's kind of like a registration database in California, although it's not quite like that. Basically, the DOJ has on file that on a particular date you purchased a firearm, and if you do have a record like that on file, and you're not otherwise prohibited from owning or possessing ammunition or firearms by nature of some sort of criminal conviction or otherwise, DOJ is going to run their records to see if you have that on file and you're not a prohibited person, and they will then authorize the transfer from that point moving forward. The second way
now, let me ask you, is that done at the dealership? Is that like an electronic deal and just it's a matter of minutes?
Well, that's what DOJ says is supposed to happen. So, yes, you're correct that it's supposed to happen at the ammunition vendor or licensed dealer. Whether or not it takes a couple minutes is a whole other question, because we've been told by DOJ that they're anticipating that it's only going to take a few minutes. But, knowing what I know, and I'm sure what many people have experienced in the past, the DOJ is anything but timely on things like this. And so it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out starting July 1st, especially when the system initially goes live. And so we're going to sort of be waiting to see what happens with that. But, yeah, you're right. It could take longer than that, depending on, what the individual has in their records with DOJ. So it's just a matter of time. We're going to see how that plays out.
I mean, and they may be, I'm just thinking, the number of people who buy guns is very small compared to the number of people who buy ammunition. I'm just anticipating if they haven't thought about that, they could just get slammed by what happens on July 1st.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the many problems with this is that in their numbers that DOJ was estimating their figures, so part of this whole process, they had to propose regulations to implement this system. Those regulations are still pending, but in association with that, they gave some estimations on what they expected to happen. All of their estimations were based off of actual firearm purchases and transfers. And so you're right. If you think about that from a practical standpoint, it's like, one person is going to buy a gun maybe, once every couple of weeks or months or even, less frequently than that. But they're probably going to be buying ammunition a lot more than that, especially if they're taking it to the range to practice or train with it and things like that. And so it's kind of I think it's an improper way of measuring some of these anticipated time frames as far as the processing times is concerned, especially with the number of transactions that are going to be potentially involved here. Because, I know people that haven't bought guns for a long time, but they're buying ammunition like every other day because they go to the range
now,
every
would
week.
they have to do this?
So,
they have to do this background check every time they go back to buy more ammo?
yeah, and that's where it's going to get even more interesting. So, like I said, that was the first option. There's two more options here that I want to touch on briefly.
Hold on to that. Hold on to those two other options. Let me take a quick break. We'll come back. Let's talk about those because I want people to know what's going on in California because, trust me, this is the petri dish where they develop these things and then this virus goes across the country. Also, I want to talk with Matthew about any legal challenges to this because I'm hoping that there's something going on there. We'll be right back with more Gun Talk.
The pistol that redefined pocket carry just got even better. The Ruger LCP-2 has improved sights, an easy-to-rack slide, a larger textured grip surface for a secure grip and recoil reduction, and a short, crisp, single-action trigger pull for real-world accuracy. It's so small and light that there's no reason to ever leave home without your LCP-2. A serious pistol in a pint-sized package. Learn more about the LCP-2 at Ruger.com.
You got your carry permit, and that's good. But you could use more training. Get the DVDs, which have what you need. Springfield Armory presents Concealed Carry 1 and Concealed Carry 2 with Bata Group. Learn specific concealed carry skills from Top Gun fighting trainers. Get trained. Be prepared. This really is life and death. ShopGunTalk.com. That's ShopGunTalk.com.
Hi, this is Tom Gresham from Gun Talk. America is losing critical wildlife habitat at a rate of 1 football field every hour. It's happening on the Louisiana coast, but it's critical to all sportsmen and conservationists. These precious wetlands provide winter habitat for more than 10 million ducks and geese annually, waterfowl that migrate north through dozens of states. Don't shrug it off. Get involved. You can help. Visit vanishingparadise.org.
This is Jeff with Black Hills Ammunition. Our Honey Badger line now features a new 40 Smith & Wesson caliber loading. Gelatin testing shows that this round outperforms conventional hollow points, not only in terms of velocity, penetration, and weight retention, but it also provides superior temporary cavities. The profile and solid copper construction assure flawless feeding. This is the latest technology in handgun performance. Black Hills Ammunition, the power of performance.
All right, we're talking with Matthew Cuberio from California. He's an attorney, and we're talking about the new regulation that goes into effect July 1, requiring background checks every time you buy ammunition there. And I know that the people who pass things like this think about, well, how often are you going to be buying ammo? I'm thinking, well, I know people that shoot 1,000 rounds a week. I actually know people who shoot 1,000 rounds a day. One of those is involved in all this. We'll talk about that in a minute. Kim Rody being involved in that. Matthew, so you mentioned there are 2 other things going on, 2 other ways that this happens when you have to do the background check. If you could just jump on those quickly for us.
Yeah, so if you don't have an AFS record, the other options that are available to you are to present what's called a valid certificate of eligibility. Those are essentially special certificates that are issued generally to people involved in the firearm business, but also people like licensed collectors. If you're also a licensed collector and have a COE, that entitles you to certain exceptions under California law for various things. But so if you have a COE, that's the second option where you can provide that COE and that will satisfy the background check requirement. But if you don't have either an AFS record or a certificate of eligibility, that leaves you with the third and final option, which is essentially a full-scale background check, the process of which, from what we've seen, or at least what we understand, is essentially the same as when an individual goes to purchase a firearm in the state of California. And so for the first 2 options, it's a $1 processing fee just to verify that you have an AFS record or a certificate of eligibility. If you don't satisfy either of those 2, you then have to go through the full background check process, which is a $19 fee, and that's per transaction. So imagine if you're going to the store to buy a box of 22, long rifle that maybe costs,
right.
$5-10 in that neighborhood. You're spending now $19 on top of that if you don't have one of those first two options available to you, just to undergo the background check every single time you go to do that. And so that's what people are going to be facing here coming July 1st.
And I understand people are buying ammo like crazy in California. And unfortunately, I think you cannot buy ammo through the mail in California anymore, can you?
Well, yes and no. You can't do it like you used to be able to, where you can just order it online and have it shipped directly to your house. However,
right.
you can still order it online and have it shipped directly to a licensed vendor or licensed dealer. But as I mentioned earlier, those people that are licensed collectors that have a certificate of eligibility, that's one of those exceptions to that restriction. So if you have a COE and you are a licensed collector, you can still have ammunition shipped directly to you. As a way of getting around that particular restriction. But generally speaking, you're correct. Can't order online direct anymore.
I would throw this thought out. It seems obvious to me that one of the big motivations of people doing this is to make people buy less ammo, to make it onerous to do that. What's going on? Are there some legal challenges to this still underway?
Yeah, so we've already filed a lawsuit on behalf of the California Rifle and Pistol Association with the support of the National Rifle Association. That lawsuit, as you mentioned, Kim Rohde is serving as the lead plaintiff. She's an Olympic gold medalist shooter. She goes through thousands of rounds of ammunition a day, just as part of her practice is concerned.
Right.
But so we filed that lawsuit. And that lawsuit is currently in what's called the discovery phase of litigation, and so we're moving along here. But we're paying very close attention to the implementation of this system come July 1st. And it might be necessary, but we'll have to sort of wait and see right now as far as what happens. But we will potentially be looking at any and all available legal remedies come July 1st if, for example, this system crashes like I fully expect it to, at least in some sense of the word. So.
Any chance of an injunction to get this thing or a stay while we're waiting to see what happens with the lawsuit?
Well, so that's one of the things that we're looking at, and we have to sort of look and see how this stuff actually gets implemented first. Because, like I said, the regulations for this whole system haven't even been finalized yet, and so we're still waiting to see whether or not those regulations even get approved. Because there's a chance.
So we're going to require action. We're going to enforce regulations that haven't even been finalized.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is one of those things the DOJ has. It's becoming typical as far as DOJ procedures and processes is getting these systems live. That they've currently proposed regulations that they've adopted the system for. They have the system already built, and yet those regulations have not yet even been approved. So in California, we have a public comment process associated with any regulation, something like this, as a ways of getting people involved and making sure that the system is set up properly. DOJ has sort of put the cart before the horse, and that they've already created the system, and those regulations, which are subject to public comments, it's like they effectively ignore it because that there's nothing that they can do about it because they can't change their system now. And so
right.
Is,
so we have to pass
problem.
It so we can find out what's in it.
Right. Exactly.
Well, Matthew, please keep us posted with how this progresses, and those of us in California, let me know what you're thinking. What are you doing on this thing? Again, thank you so much, Matthew. I appreciate your help with this, and if there's anything we can do to help, let us know. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come talk to you guys.
You bet. You take care. Yeah, challenging this. Yeah, Kim Rohde, 6-time Olympic medal winner in 6 different Olympic games. When she's training hard, she's shooting 1,000 rounds of 12 gauge a day, every day. How much ammo is that going through? Can you imagine that deal? Yeah, and if this succeeds there, it will eke out and ooze out into other states. 866-TALK-GUN. If you're in California, what are you doing about this right now? All right, back with you, 866-TALK-GUN. Tom Gresham here. It's Gun Talk. If you'd like to be a part of this, by all means, if you have a story to tell about your dad and guns, it's Father's Day. We'd love to hear those as well. Again, 866-TALK-GUN or just Tom Talk Gun. By the way, make sure you have the Gun Dealio smartphone app on your smartphone. It's free. It's our product. And we push out all sorts of deals and messages. And I just bought, God, I just bought 1,000 rounds this morning. They've got all sorts of deals going on everywhere now. There's some crazy prices out there. So, yeah, get the Gun Dealio app, stick it on your smartphone. Oh, yeah, you got to make sure to allow notifications. Otherwise, you're not really getting the full use out of it, okay? Let's go to the phones. Ron's on line 1 out of Elko, Nevada. Ron, you're on Gun Talk. What's happening out there?
We got just a new law they decided to pass around here in Elko because the state went 90% liberal. And anyway, at least there's 4 counties that ain't. They wouldn't pass a law that we have to get a gun back check down on a privately sale on private sales. Well, there's 4 counties in this state, including Elko, that went Second Amendment gun sanctuaries.
I saw that. Let me back up. Nevada, very disappointing, just passed several new restrictive gun control laws. One of them is this so-called phony universal background check. Basically, what it does is it bans the private sale of guns. You can sell it to somebody, but you still have to go through the background check, which means you got to go find a dealer to run it through, which means you're going to add $20, $50, $75 to the cost of each one of those. Not to mention the whole idea of if you want to loan your gun to someone, to a neighbor, to go out hunt pheasants or whatever for the weekend, now you got that issue going on. But yeah, I'm just looking this up. You're right. 4 counties in Nevada have said they're going to be Second Amendment sanctuary counties. That is, they are not going to enforce this. That's got to be on the sheriffs. They're doing that, right?
It is.
Yep. The sheriffs just say, I'm not going to do that. I don't think that's constitutional, and that's not going to be the law of the land in this county as far as prosecution goes. We're not going to enforce it.
Nope.
So
what's
driving this?
Want to start the whole thing.
Is this the basically Clark County? All of the it's kind of like a lot of these other states where you've got a whole bunch of people in one town. In this case, Las Vegas is driving this.
Yeah, Las Vegas and Reno.
Yep. Okay. So, what are you hearing from people out and about? I mean, what are they upset by it, or are they just going to shrug and not just basically ignore it?
Well, we're not going to worry about it because our sheriff's not going to they're not going to enforce it at all. They didn't.
Okay.
Told them they wasn't going to.
And it's not a violation of federal law. It's perfectly legal to sell guns individually within your state as far as federal law. So it's only state law. So if they're not going to enforce it, now I don't know if the state police can come in there and enforce it, but I don't know how they would or why they would. But that will be interesting to see how that plays out. Hey, Ron, I appreciate the call, sir. And yeah, pretty disappointing to see this in Nevada. But once again, we see as the liberals, the progressives move out of California, they leave there because they don't like what's going on there. But then they take those same beliefs and values that they've inculcated after living there for maybe sometimes all their lives and drop into other states and bring those same wacky ideas. And now you've got the Bloomberg billions that are going into places like this, and they go into the legislatures and they can push these ideas because it just seems good. It's just common sense. Yeah, you ought to have to get the government's okay to loan your gun to your neighbor for the weekend. And oh yeah, by the way, it'll be a crime if you don't get that done before you loan it to him. And then when he brings it back and hands it back to you at the end of the weekend, it'll be a crime if you don't do a background check then. Idiotic. 866-TALK-GUN.